Finally, LSU has its athletic director. No, for real this time. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe as always. One of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. And thank you to everybody watching on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, where we are available every Monday through Friday. So after a topsy-turvy, tumultuous 10 days, LSU has finally settled on its full-time athletic director. No, for real this time. Verge Ausberry is LSU's athletics director. They have changed the title on the LSUsports.net official website. They have removed the interim tag. I had a phone call on Thursday morning with representative from the president's office, from Dr. Wade Rousse's office, with authority to speak on behalf of the president with me, and I will share how that conversation, what I'm able to share, how that conversation went. But what is of the utmost importance is the understanding and the clarification that Verge Ausberry is LSU's athletic director. When a football coach is hired, there will not be a search subsequent for a new athletic director. You would have to have a vacancy to have an AD search, and there is no vacancy. Verge Ausberry is the athletic director, and for as long as he continues to perform that job well, he'll continue to be LSU's athletics director. So this is not an interim situation. Verge is the athletic director. As a matter of fact, the quotes, and I'll talk about some of the miscommunication and what happened here in a second with Dr. Rousse, but the quotes that I was given and that I published at LouisianaSports.net, if you'd like to read them there. Quote, this is a source within the LSU system president's office, within Dr. Rousse's office, with authority to speak on behalf of the president. Verge Ausberry is the athletic director at LSU, period. There is no intent or desire to play word games with this issue. Athletics needs a stable hand at the helm, and that is Verge Ausberry. Verge is fully empowered to find our next football coach and to run the athletic department. Again, and I clarified to make sure that this isn't a thing where he's the AD for now, and then whenever a coach is hired, there would be a search for the full-time AD and Verge would be considered. That is not the case. Verge is the athletic director, no ambiguity. The next part that I think is also important is, and I'm going to talk about why I think, I'm going to give you some opinion based on all the conversations I've had, why and how it landed in this spot. But this is the other part that I think is so important and gives me a tremendous amount of appreciation and respect for how Dr. Rousse handled this, this hoopla here of the last 24 hours. This quote read, Dr. Rousse has been consistent that he will demand excellence at LSU across every department and for every employee, and each of us will be evaluated based on our performance. So that, of course, includes Verge Ausberry. But this is the line. That is the sentiment he intended to convey, but clearly did not communicate it well. That is the sentiment he intended to convey, but clearly did not communicate it well. Listen, it takes an awful lot. It takes I would say a big man, but to swallow your pride and admit a mistake, especially when you are this new to this role and have stepped in it in this kind of manner. I say, if you caught the previous episode where, and shout out to our everydayers, where it looked as though, and we walked through the whole process of what happened where Dr. Rousse apparently had walked back his commitment to Verge Ausberry and dropping the interim tag. It looked like maybe they were playing a game of semantics. Okay. Dr. Rousse was appointed by the Board of Supervisors on Tuesday. Tuesday night, they dropped the interim tag. And then Wednesday, he gives an interview to the Louisiana Illuminator. And we've been through those quotes where the one that really caught the most attention was, I'll remove the interim title and then we'll assess the situation. I can't make a good decision after being on the job for 8 hours. Well, then why did you drop the interim tag? That was sort of the question. And there was uncertainty. And so it created a whole new layer of question. And truthfully, the best path would have been not to answer that question. The best path would have been to, like, no comment is an acceptable answer, or to say, we'll issue a statement at the appropriate time. And this never becomes a thing. But it became a thing because of his words. And there's two ways you could do that. You could continue to try to run the spin cycle to try to get people to lose sight of what you said and your misstep and try to cover it up, or you can just own it. And what he said was, you know what? I'm going to own it. I mean, this man was appointed on Tuesday. Wednesday morning, he makes these comments, and it is a firestorm. Wednesday night, he goes on WWL radio thinking he's going to smooth things over, and all he really did was kind of double down. And it only created more confusion. So he doesn't even officially begin what it tentatively scheduled to begin, his office told me, on the 17th. They have contract stuff they have to go through, but he's tentatively scheduled to begin his role at LSU on the 17th. So he hasn't even formally begun the job, and he created a firestorm with his words. And again, my respect for how he handled this was just saying, you know what? I screwed up. I misspoke. I didn't effectively communicate. Let me read the quote exactly again. That is the sentiment he intended to convey, but clearly did not communicate it well. To say, for the university president to say, my mistake, I didn't communicate this well, and owned it, it takes an awful lot of confidence to be able to swallow your pride and say, y'all, look, I screwed this up. I should have communicated this better. I didn't. That's on me. We're happy with Verge. He's going to find us a football coach, and he's going to be our athletic director. Let's move forward. Now, some of you have asked me, why hasn't LSU issued a statement? Now, depending on when you listen or watch this, this may have happened, but as I understand it, there will be coming on Thursday an official statement from Dr. Rousse in his office, effectively communicating all the things that I'm communicating to you here, and we'll see exactly what he says when that becomes public. But yeah, I referred to the episode I did prior, where I had talked about this seeming flip-flop, and my concern was that this was one of two things happened. Either, number one, he was trying to walk it back and playing a semantics game, and that had me concerned, because that's what Governor Landry did a week ago. And I told you that it was disingenuous of the governor. And I don't have a personal problem with the governor. Some of you have assumed. He and I have spoken. We've met a few times. Always been very cordial. He's been very nice to me. I've enjoyed my time personally when I've spoken to Governor Landry. We just happen to disagree on this thing, which can happen. But I think all of us know, and it took John Carmouche in that press conference saying point blank, the taxpayers have never paid for a coach's contract and never will, to finally make that go away. Because what the governor was saying was just by the letter of the law, yes, but there's no reality where that would ever happen. He knows it, I know it, you all know that the taxpayers are never paying that contract. He was using that to try to trick people into understanding why he wanted to move on from Scott Woodward. But he got his way. And if that's what Wade Rousse was doing here, I was going to have a problem with it. The other part of it is, and I said it was one of two things. The other is, you have a guy that's been the president at a small school and is not used to the magnifying glass. And not only being at the LSU system president, but on your first day making a foray not only into athletics, but into the hiring of an athletic director and a football coach cycle. Like, there is no bigger pressure cooker around LSU athletics than hiring a football coach. And Wade Rousse, in his first day, jumps right into that missteps. And so there's a giant magnifying glass. Like, for him moving forward, I think this is a great lesson to learn that it's not McNeese, it's LSU. I don't mean that as disrespect to McNeese. This is just an enormously, dramatically different situation he's walking into, where the words you say carry weight. People are going to listen. They're going to be published. You're going to be asked tough questions, and you better have a response for them, or you better have someone on your team standing right by you to make sure you know what you can and can't answer in those situations, and to be prepared. That was the biggest misstep here. Dr. Wade Rousse was not prepared to answer that question. So he got the question, he shot from the hip, he phrased it in a way that made it very confusing moving forward, and he created a big storm. And this was a self-created mess. Some people have criticized the reporter, Piper Hutchinson. I don't know Piper Hutchinson, but a reporter's job is to ask questions. A reporter's job is to ask questions. She asked a question. He gave a poor answer. That's on him. To his credit, to his great credit, he had the self-confidence, the humility to say, my bad. I communicated poorly. I'll be better moving forward. Verge is our AD. Make that abundantly clear. And now, because of that, you do have what we've all wanted, which is you had a leadership vacuum, and now you are filling those seats, and you can go hire a coach. You have your university president, you have your AD now with no ambiguity, and now you can go hire a football coach. So I do want to follow up with a quick thought on the football coaching search, and I also want to give a follow-up on maybe how quickly this happened with removing the interim from Verge. We'll get to that as we continue Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Their Trademaster perks, like priority shipping and dedicated support, make the whole process smoother. So join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. And we're brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or you want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who'll score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. It may strike some as odd that Dr. Rousse moved so quickly to remove the interim tag from Verge Ausberry's title, but I do think, just to be on the record about this. Now, no one has told me this at LSU. I want to be very clear. And I'm going to tell you, when I'm reporting news to you and when I'm giving you an opinion, I want to be clear so you know how I'm differentiating. I'm not reporting this here. I'm telling you my opinion based on a lot of conversations, clearly, that I've had from the governor to the president's office to people involved in the search and Verge Ausberry, everybody. I think part of the reason they moved quickly to remove the interim tag is because they were having trouble in this coaching search without having a definitive answer of who the athletic director was going to be. I've said this on multiple platforms. I've said it here. It's hard for an agent to pitch a job to their client when they can't say definitively who they're going to be working for. So that's not to say Verge wouldn't have ultimately been the athletic director without a football coaching search. I do believe, again, my opinion, I believe if LSU was not looking to hire a football coach, there would have been no rush to remove the interim tag. Verge certainly could have operated functionally within the athletic department and could have absolutely done this job, and I think done an excellent job and probably gotten the job anyway. But I think part of the reason they moved so quickly is because of this coaching search that's going on and the uncertainty around the AD role moving forward, I think was limiting them. Now, as I understand it, where the search is right now primarily is they are absolutely the committee, and Verge has mentioned who the committee members are. Joining Verge Ausberry are Scott Ballard, the president of the board, John Carmouche, the head of the athletics committee on the board, EJ Kuiper, the president CEO of the FMOL health system, which is, of course, Our Lady of the Lake, which is one of the partners of LSU Athletics and ours here as well, full disclosure. Ben Bordelon, who played at LSU, his two sons are on the team right now and is the CEO of Bollinger Shipyards. And then now Dr. Rousse, who is the fifth member. So those five plus Verge, of course, Verge plus those five, those six men are the ones conducting the search. And so in addition to meeting with representatives, exploratory conversations, the other part of this that I think is that is crucial right now is they're discussing contract structure. And that's important because a week ago, the governor said he was not interested in having giant buyouts. He wanted a different structure of the contracts. And then Verge Ausberry at the press conference on Friday was told, don't worry about contracts or the dollar amount, go hire the best coach. So is there a way maybe to have both? Is there a way to attract the top tier candidate to structure a deal that would make sense for a top tier candidate and would avoid a potential giant buyout? For example, let's say Kirby Smart right now at $13.3 million is the highest paid coach on an annual average basis. Let's say LSU wanted to pay their coach $14 million. Okay. Could you do a 6-year deal at $14 million per, with the understanding that it is highly unlikely that you would ever see a coach gone within 4 years at LSU? I mean, you even think back to the 90s, with Jerry DiNardo, for example. Jerry DiNardo was fired in his 5th season. Nick Saban coached 5 years at LSU before leaving for the Dolphins. Les Miles was at LSU for a dozen years. Ed Ogeron had a 5-year run as the full-time. The interim in 2016, but 5 years as the full-time coach. Brian Kelly was in his 4th year. So it's plausible to believe that whoever the next coach is getting at least 4 years. So could you do a higher dollar amount contract over a shorter amount of time so you're not saddled with a buyout that's paid out over 6 years potentially? So if you did a $14 million a year deal over a 6-year deal, you're talking about a contract that's pushing $80 million, but if you made it through 4 years and went in a different direction, well, now your buyout is $28 million if it's fully guaranteed. And there could be mitigation. Now, $28 million is a massive number. I'm not saying that's not, but it's a far cry from 53. And by the way, what do contracts look like 40 years from now? $14 million maybe may put you 20th or 15th or 20th on the highest paid coaching list. Whereas when you get that, I mean, think about football contracts with quarterbacks or any player that resets the market. Patrick Mahomes makes his record-breaking deal. Well, then Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts all come back and get their deals. Now they're making more. It's just how you reset the market. So the market could be reset multiple times over after LSU makes this hire. All that to say, I think this is why, if you had the question about why some of those people on the committee are on the committee without a football background necessarily, it's because of this. These are very smart, wildly successful business people who run multi-million or even billion-dollar corporations that are used to doing gigantic contracts and know how to structure deals, how to incentivize deals, how to make the money work, all of those things. Because yes, you may need Verge Ausberry's acumen and expertise to know what he's looking for in the X's and O's of a football coach. But all of the other things, how do you communicate with boosters? How do you, is that person, a good communicator that not only can communicate with the players and recruits and their families, but the top tier boosters that need to have that engagement? And then how do you structure a deal? Is there a bonus structure, incentives, all that sort of stuff? That's where you need people with that high level business acumen that do these deals all the time, where that's a benefit. So, look, LSU's going to play a game on Saturday against Alabama, and a lot of our conversations are going to pivot more to talking about the remaining 4 games of the season, and in particular, what that means for Frank Wilson. Now, as of today, I don't believe Frank Wilson has a really good shot of winning this job full time. But it's as of today, this moment. But if he wins over the next month, that conversation changes. There's going to be some wind in those sails. If LSU goes to Tuscaloosa this weekend and pulls an upset of the number 3 team in the country as a double-digit underdog, and then you beat Arkansas, Western Kentucky, I think you go to Norman with Frank Wilson very likely coaching for this job. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it's a possibility. That's why I think a lot of our conversations will start to pivot now moving forward, that it seems like all of the unsettled, uneasy conversations here over the last 10 days now finally seem like they're behind us, and LSU can start to move forward to finish this football season and to hire this future football coach. And of course, we'll be right here talking about it on Locked On LSU. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app, rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know that if they love the Tigers, we got you here every single day for Locked On LSU, your team every day.